There are places in this world where the unexplained will suddenly become akin to comfort, allowing the bizarre to bleed into the atmosphere. Within the city of Jefferson, Texas, resides such a location, in the form of a hotel that shares the city's name, in which the things that go bump in the night have begun to open doors, roam the halls, and reveal themselves. The question is why? Why is this happening? Having never been there, I can't answer that question. But on October 1st and 2nd, 50 of you will have the chance to join me for a weekend-long paranormal investigation at AGH Presents The Ghosts of the Jefferson Hotel. My friends, I am incredibly excited about this event. To those of you that have already purchased your tickets, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you face to face in Jefferson, Texas. And for those of you who wish to join us at AGH Presents The Ghosts of the Jefferson Hotel, VIP tickets are sold out and there's only 15 gold tickets left. But you can get your gold tickets while they last by clicking the ticket link, which I've posted below in the description box. Having said that, let's jump right into the In a Crowded Room podcast. Hey, what's up everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 126, part 2. Where we left off last time, I had just had an incredibly bizarre, day, evening, and night at Glenn Nason's Dannybrook. The thing that creeped me out about it the most is I'm not the type of guy that allows, certain instances to make me feel another way about something else. Growing up in a haunted house, by nature, because things were creepy, anytime anything would happen, I would try to break it down and figure out if there was an explanation for it. Because that's the hope, right? When you grow up in a haunted house, you don't want to experience paranormal activity. So when something bizarre happens, the first thing I would do is find a way to make it natural. And obviously, if I couldn't find a way, then things would get somewhat, scary. So when I went to Glenn's, I couldn't explain that initial feeling that I had inside his house. But I had just told myself, well, there's just a ton of history here. Who knows how many people died, right where I'm standing. Who knows? But it seemed like in every instance when I was on that property specifically, my mind would just go to a negative place. There was no reason whatsoever to think that, Seth would have killed anybody. No reason whatsoever. Just because a guy is, quiet, maybe a little socially awkward, doesn't mean they're anything other than a nice guy. So it was really weird that I felt that way. I'm also just not a judgmental person. I know everybody says that, but what I mean by that is, like, if you went back to my high school and you said, and you asked my friends, well, who was Chad friends with? I was friends with everyone despite being a jock, right? I was that dude. I was the high school jock. But, some of my closest friends were, the burners, the potheads, the metalhead kids, even the kids that got picked on. Some of them were my closest friends because I would stand up for them. I just like people in general. And typically, the more different you are, the more I'm going to be attracted to you. The more I'm going to like you and like the fact that you're different than me. I just think different is good. So why my mind went to a place that said, Seth is out with Chris. Maybe he killed him. It's just such a weird thing. But it wasn't just me. I was looking at Frankie and Neil as well, and their mind going to the same place, and the fact that this all seemed so real. Because they ended up getting a hotel room that night, and when I did, the second I got back there, I was like, this is crazy. Like, I just went back and went over everything throughout the night. Not that the night was without bizarre choices made by people, but I just replayed it all, and I'm like, why was I in that headspace? Why? There was nothing but good things going on. I was meeting my friend Glenn, who I have always loved, and I was meeting these new guys who wanted to make a movie that was exciting. There was no reason to go to this negative headspace. And that stuck with me for a long time. So when it came time to do an event, and we were, getting a lot of pressure from people, you should do events. At that time, they were becoming a very popular thing. Darkness Radio was doing events, and Taps was getting ready to do their own events, and there were new shows coming out. So yeah, I was like, cool, maybe I, should do an event. PRS that just did an event. I had just started doing the very, very beginning stages of Paranormal State, but I didn't want to do anything big. I always knew that. I never wanted to do a 200, 300 person event because I just don't know how you can actually have any kind of paranormal investigation out of that. I really believe that 30 to 50 people is like the maximum, depending on how big a place is. And even there, you got to break it down into groups. But for my first event, I was like, I want to go back to Dannybrook. And, I just want to invite, 15, 20 people. And I want to tell them about my experience. I just want to tell them about it and see what they think. And see if, maybe any of them feel as though, they had, some kind of negative spirit influence, when we were there. And again, I didn't go crazy advertising it. I really did just kind of like reach out to some groups that I knew that were close. And I wanted to make sure that it was like a small group of friendlies coming, right? Because I had also never thrown an event before. And although I was confident I can do it, until you've done it, you never want to be too overconfident, right? And I just didn't want anybody to have a bad time above all else, So, we get there, and I'm there with Justin and Joey and, the team, a bunch of close friends. And it's a small group, but really cool people. I think it's maybe 20 people. And I give everybody the history of the place. And one thing we did was really weird. Like right before the event, like literally a couple hours before it started, I remember Justin came up and said, we should get a keg. And at the time, it sounded like a good idea. Already foreshadowing. And I remember saying, okay, let's get one, but let's make sure that nobody's investigating when they're drinking. Meaning that if we did an investigation and we ended like at midnight and people wanted to have some beers, that's cool. But what's really bizarre about even me making that choice to say yes is I don't drink. I don't drink. And I know that shocks a lot of people when they hear that. I can't even tell you how many events I've went to, and people think I drink, and I've gotten bottles and bottles and bottles of whiskey and stuff sent to my hotel room and all kinds of stuff from really nice people that just don't know that I don't drink. And the reason I don't drink, it's not, I have zero problem with alcohol. When I was in a band, when I was in college, I probably took 10 years off my life with alcohol, but I could always stop drinking because I don't really like it. It's not something that tastes good to me. The way I view alcohol is it's a utility, like meaning if I'm going to go, I'm going to go hard. That's just how I do it. I drink to get drunk. Like I don't drink socially, I do it if I just want to party and have a blast. And it took me, I don't know, a couple years to figure out that me and alcohol just don't mix. And the primary issue Well, I'm trying to. How honest should I be here right now? Um, well, look, man, whatever. I'll just say it. My primary issue with alcohol is that my biggest vice in the world it's women. I'll just say it. That's what it is. And when I'm drunk, I don't make good decisions. I just don't. And I've just realized that that's not a good place for me to be. And we'll just leave it at that. Okay. So there you go. If anybody wants to know how honest Chad is on his podcast, now you know. So it was weird that I would, say yes to let's get a keg. Because one thing I do know is I'm not going to drink at all, or I'm going to get hammered. And I don't want to get hammered, obviously, and I know I don't want to drink. So why am I saying, let's get a keg? But we did it. We went and got a keg. So everybody shows up, and it was a really cool vibe at first. Like everybody was really excited to see, oh my God, AGH is doing an event. And not only are they doing an event, they're doing it at this ridiculously cool place, which, by the way, Dannybrook, in the daytime, is about as beautiful as it comes, man. The Sandy Run Creek is incredible. I mean, it's straight out of like an old American Revolution painting, man. Like it is just, it looks like you step back in time. And, the actual house building, Glenn was doing an incredible job of the upkeep and restoring the place. And by the time we got there for that event, I was shocked because it seemed like a different building. I was like, wow, he's really got this place, happening. This is really amazing. And so the vibe was really good. Everyone was really stoked. Everybody was excited to see each other. Of the 20 people that came, there were probably about 10 different people that kind of added to the number. Kind of, I don't want to say stragglers, I guess, but just people who knew people, and they said, can we sell another ticket? Can we do this? And I was like, sure, but I don't want to go over 30 people. So we had about 20 people that we knew well, about 10 people that we didn't know, and so it was a good number. It was a good number. So everybody's hanging out the first night. Everybody's hanging out, and then it's probably around 9 or 10 o'clock, and a few of the attendees say, yo, is that, we have a keg here? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, but we should probably, not drink until, after we do the investigations tonight. And then a few other people asked me, and then Justin came up and he said, you know what, dude, maybe we should just treat this first night as like a meet and greet. Now remember, we've never done this before, okay? This is 90 events ago, right? Literally 90 events ago. We've never done this. We don't really know what we're doing. So I kind of called everybody over, all the attendees, and I was like, well, here's the deal. This whole property is haunted. The woods is supposed to be haunted. The house is supposed to be haunted. So things can happen at any time without, actively investigating. And the paranormal is going to happen when it happens. Some of you have said you want to have a few beers and chill and get to know people tonight. And I'm a fan of everybody getting to know everybody and kind of mingling, and it just makes the investigation even better. And I just said, but, here's the deal. If we're going to be drinking and having beers, and then there is no formal investigation, and we're not going into the house, because this is Glenn's property. He lives here. And Glenn's wife, Sue, who I adore, and his daughters, his children, grew up calling me Uncle Chad. They're literally family to me to this day, And I was just like, that's cool, but we're not going in Glenn's house. Anybody drunk cannot go in the house. And by the way, this was a camping event too, where you could stay at a hotel offsite if you wanted to, or if you wanted to bring tents, you could camp in your tents. And I chose to camp in a tent. This is maybe I didn't state this. This is a big property. 2 or 3 acres. Then there's a forest. It's really big. And everybody oddly, was kind of like, well, let's just have some drinks. And I'm like, okay, cool. And that was probably the first bad decision that I made, because not that it wasn't a fun first night, but the more and more people drink, the more and more opinions start flying, And the more and more, that devil's finger, man, that temptation, just starts moving through the group. What I mean by temptation is, we all know what we should be doing in our life that's good and what we shouldn't be doing. And not that it was like, some, crazy Hell's Den or anything, but I just started noticing the energy was changing. It was getting somewhat darker. And what was really interesting is I invited Adam Bly out to Dannybrook. And what Adam didn't know is I just wanted to get his take on it. If you don't know who Adam Bly is, he was a longtime understudy of John Zaffis. Adam's a demonologist. He was actually on the first episode of Paranormal State. He had some ties with Ryan Buell. They were well before my time. Ryan and Adam were working together, and I know Paranormal State was initially kind of birthed with the idea that it was going to be centered around Ryan and Adam Bly. But Adam, and I don't know the reasons why. I couldn't even begin to speculate, guys, so I'm not going to. But for some reason, Adam did one episode of Paranormal State and then chose to leave the show. But I had seen Adam at the Queen Mary speak, and I always found him to be just a really interesting guy. Our beliefs couldn't be any more further from each other. I don't believe in the demonic the way he does. I'm not a demonologist. I'm not overtly religious. I know it's cliche to say I'm spiritual and not religious, but that's true. I mean, there are things about religion that I really like, but I also think mankind has just done an incredible job of screwing religion up and making it, very cause reward. But that's a whole different podcast, I guess. But I invited Adam out there, and one of the reasons that I invited him out there is he does these incredible light paintings. I don't know if you've ever seen them or not. They're hard to describe, but you basically go stand in a group, and he has like an open lens, and he moves throughout the painting with these lights, and it's crazy. I don't even know how the process works. I've always meant to ask him, how are you getting this effect? But basically, he can create these photos that it looks like spirits are just flying around everybody. It looks like you're in the middle of like Ghostville, USA. And I wanted him to come out to do a group photo of everybody that went to this event. So everybody had this as like a commemorative, like, keepsake, to take home. And so Adam came out, and I was I was kind of embarrassed because he got there a little later than I thought he was going to. And by the time he got there, there was no, investigating going on. Like, it was just a big party, man. Everybody was drinking, and I had just got the guitar out, and I was playing and singing, and Adam could see what was going on. He could see that this was just a party. Regardless of the original intention, this was a party. And what was really weird, by the way, Adam was totally cool. I mean, like, he had fun, he was enjoyable, and he ended up leaving a little earlier than I thought he would, but he did do the photo thing with everybody. And then after that was done, I was playing guitar down by the fire. We had a big bonfire set up, and there were different people sitting around there, a couple girls initially, and a couple guys, and it kind of cleared out. And for a few minutes, it was just Adam and I sitting down there. And I said, I thanked him for coming, and I just said, so how you doing, man? And he's like, I'm doing good. And I go, cool, man, good. And he was like, how are you? And I'm like, me? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, no, I'm good. And he's like, are you? And I paused, and I kind of looked at him kind of weird, and I'm like, yeah, I think so. Why? And he's like, I just think you need to be very careful right now. And I thought, oh, he must be talking about, everybody partying and stuff. And I was like, oh, well, Adam, it's first night, man. People wanted to have some drinks and get to know each other. I get it. And he's like, that's not what I'm talking about. And I go, okay, what are you talking about? And I'll never forget this. He just said, be careful how close you get to the darkness. I didn't say anything. I just sat there and kind of thought about, what would make him say this. I mean, given my house in Persia, Iowa, and growing up, in what I grew up with, and then continuing on my investigating over the years, I had been close to the darkness for a long time. So I don't know what really made him say that to me. But I found it interesting that at Dannybrook, the first time that we were alone, the demonologist that's there says, hey, I'm worried about you. Don't get too close to the darkness. Don't get too close to the darkness. So in response, I thank Adam for, giving me the warning, but I assure him that I'm okay. In which we chatted for a little while about, not like overtly in depth, but we chatted for a little while about negative energy and the demonic. And the reason I didn't want to go into it, again, is Adam is a devout Catholic. My wife is a devout Catholic as well. I am not. So I just didn't want to say anything out of respect for him that would offend him in any way. Because to me, that's why I've always felt that like religion and politics are kind of the same thing. Where you come from and how you got where you're going, and, your childhood, your college years, your adulthood, your current situation, all of those things determine your belief system and what works for you. So it's not like I can say, Adam, you're wrong for being, Catholic any more than he can tell me I'm wrong for wanting to avoid, religion in order to focus on spiritualism, right? So I didn't want to get into a heavy conversation with him about demonology, but I'm always interested, when people dedicate their life to something, and Adam had dedicated his life to demonology. So we had, a bit of a conversation about that, but, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't offend him because he had given of his time. He came out, he made this wonderful picture for everybody. He didn't make me pay him or say I have to pay him. He just wanted to support us. And within the paranormal community, that was big for this reason. It was very controversial at the time that I even threw an event. And that's because Darkness Radio had a lock on the event business, and nobody else was throwing events. No one could kind of get through to anybody. Everything was taps-based, and I had just started doing Paranormal State. Paranormal State had just thrown their first event, and ours was like pretty much a couple days after. So, it was kind of like, well, who are these other guys trying to get in the event business, And it was just something that fans supported it, but those with, a current business model that had a monopoly on everything, they did not want to see me get into the event business. And I think that's because more than anything, they knew that I had a creative mind and I would try to do things differently and give people an alternative. And that's exactly what our plans were. So the fact that Adam showed up to support us, having really strong ties to the Taps family, was really cool. It was really cool. But yeah, so his comments really kind of, that took me off guard, that whole don't get close to the darkness thing. So Adam ended up leaving, got up probably like 1 a.m. And right after he left, there was a couple there, a married couple. And I'm not going to say their names because this is an embarrassing moment for them, but they got into a fight. And, married couples, and this couple had been married for like 5 or 6 years, and they dated for a long time before then. There's a lot of history there, right? So when you have a fight like that, and there's alcohol introduced, a lot of personal stuff comes out. And they got into a pretty nasty squabble, just verbal with each other, and a lot of private stuff was aired. And I remember just thinking, oh man, I got to shut this down. So I talked to the guy, and Justin ended up talking to the girl. And I pulled the guy over and I just said, hey man, I'm like, we're having fun, man. Like, what's going on? What's going on? He goes, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And he was like, I was just out here, having a beer, and she wanted me to go run into the forest with her to look for ghosts. And I just said, I just want to finish my beer. And he goes, and she just went off on me and started telling me how worthless I am and all this stuff. And I don't know if that's the case. I think that's the way he saw it. Um, but I remember thinking, that's weird. We're all having a good time. And these guys seem fine. Last time I saw them, which was like 30 minutes ago. But, now they're fighting. But my mind goes back to the same place. Alcohol is introduced. This is why, like I said, I'm usually not a fan of including alcohol at different events because, there are happy drunks and there are angry drunks, as you guys know, right? And if everybody is coming to this event, on my invitation, obviously I don't want any fights to break out. So it was just another reason why I shouldn't have, said okay to a keg. So right after that kind of calms down, I get everybody together and I just say, okay, here's the thing, guys. Everybody has been drinking tonight to some degree, so I just want to make sure everyone understands what I said earlier. Nobody could go in Glenn's house. Nobody can go into Glenn's house because, again, they live there, right? They live there. So I'm not going to have drunk people running around his house, and I'm just not going to do it, And everyone was super cool. But then there was a gal there, and she said to me, is it okay to go into the forest? And I said, oh, sure. Yeah, you want to go walk around the forest? That's fine. And she said, well, will you come? And again, at this point, it's probably about 1:32 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come. And again, another very strange decision by me because I was really buzzed. I had a really, really strong buzz at that point. So I thought this whole night was supposed to be like a meet and greet now. But everybody decides if I'm going, they want to go now. So I'm like, cool. So we make our way down the Sandy Run Creek and we cross it, which that alone, because it was definitely, a couple feet of water at that time that we had to get across to get up into the woods. And we all go into, the woods that night, and we're all walking around. We're all like looking for things. And then all of a sudden, I think I see what looks like a lighter, like if you lit a cigarette. And it's probably 30, 40 feet away, far enough away where I can barely see it. But that's what it looked like to me. And I was like, holy cow. And I'm like, is somebody over there smoking? And everyone's like kind of looking at me like, well, who would be over there? We have a pretty small group, of the 30 people that are there, probably 20 of them, 25 of them are with me. A few people at this point have gone to bed. They've gone to their tents. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe somebody is. So I go walking over to this area, which was a straight shot from where I was. And I get all the way over there, and I don't see any light at all. And we're all kind of standing there looking around for lights. I'm like, yeah, does anybody else see a light anywhere? And this moment of silence kind of hits. And I'm like, whoa, what is that? And there's this sound that I could hear. And I'm like, do you guys hear that? And everyone's kind of looking at me and no one responds. And I go, listen very closely. Do you guys hear something right now coming from the woods? And then all of a sudden, one of the attendees goes, marching. And I'm like, yeah. And I swear to God, it sounded like a cadenced marching. It wasn't really loud. It was like soft, but it was like a cadence of like just if you marched in the same like rhythm. And it probably only lasted maybe like 20 seconds, but I was so stoked. I was just like, oh my God, that is amazing. I'm like, seriously, that's amazing. Well, at that time, I didn't bring my wave recorder with me. I didn't bring my camera with me just because I was drunk, and so were other people. So I was like, this is clearly for me, right? Like, I'm not out here trying to document stuff for the world. I just want to experience what's out here because I was asked to come out here. And it was cool because I was certain that I heard it, and everybody else was as well. So we hung out for a little bit longer, and then I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to head back over, which I did. About half the group came with me and went back to, where the bonfire was. And I continued to have some drinks and get the guitar back out, started playing and singing, and kind of had a nice little sing-along session. Everybody was making requests, and it ended up being pretty fun. Right when I was done with that, probably 3:34 in the morning, two girls that were there come, rushing back, and they're just like, Chad, you won't believe what we just saw. And I'm like, what? And they said, there was a black figure in the woods that we followed. I'm like, you followed? And they're like, no, we saw it like kind of up the hill, and we would move from like tree to tree, and every time we got there, we would see movement, and it stayed the same distance in front of us. And I go, really? And they go, yeah. And they go, then right at the end, as we're looking, we see, as it moves, they say we see the reflection of eyes. I'm like, wow. It was off moonlight, basically, because it was a clear night that night. And they say that this thing moved, and we saw a reflection of eyes. And I'm like, well, that sounds like human to me. And they're like, no, it was not human. I go, are you sure? And they're like, no, I'm 100% positive. So I'm like, wow. So people are seeing black figures in the woods. And I know that I heard this cadence marching in the woods. This is crazy. This is crazy. Make a long story short, we wrap it up that night. Everybody probably stays up, the latest of us, and I was the last person to go to bed that night. It was about 4:30 in the morning. Went to bed, slept like just terrible, just absolutely terrible, because the ground was so hard. And I have a certain way that I have to sleep to be comfortable. And, when I woke up, I was also quickly reminded the third most important reason why I don't drink. Like I said, the first is my vice. The second is just, hating being around other people that are out of control. If there's, like I said, the angry drunks specifically. But my third reason that I cannot stand drinking is I cannot stand being hungover. And when I woke up, I was just hurting, man. My whole body hurt. I was like, oh my God, this is brutal. And I was completely dehydrated, cramping up, had cramps in my hamstring, which you ever had one of those, that's about as bad as it gets. I had cramps in my hands. I was bruised everywhere, and I was like, Jesus, did I get in a fight last night? And no, it was just from rolling around on that hard ground, and I fell down a few times when I was going through the woods, which again, if you're going to go through, the woods of Philadelphia at 3 in the morning, you probably shouldn't do it with alcohol in your system. It's hard enough to traverse that area when you're sober, But I was glad that besides the fight between, the married couple and, Adam's kind of bizarre comments to me, for the most part, I felt like things were going good. People had fun. Everybody was laughing in the morning. Several people came up to me and said, hey, man, that was really cool that you just kind of let us all get to know each other, because now I'm really excited tonight to go something with my new friends that I made. And I see the benefit of that. But I did stop and say to myself, why did I get a keg? It's so something that I wouldn't do. I mean, you understand, back when I managed bands and when I was in band management, I would make my bands that I signed literally sign contracts that stated that they were going to be completely sober, alcohol-free, drug-free. Like, that's how much I did not want any kind of substance whatsoever to be involved in anything to do with business. I just don't think it's smart. So it was so unlike me to say, let's go get a keg. And Justin knows this. It was very unlike Justin to say, let's go get a keg. Not if we were just hanging. Justin is a heavy drinker, no issues with alcohol whatsoever, except for the fact that he's one of those guys that gets kind of angry sometimes when he drinks. But he's always been able to handle his alcohol. But in a business setting, Justin's, he understands, you can't, someone's got to be sober, right? Someone's got to be watching over everybody and taking care of the business, right? So it was very, very bizarre that I made that decision so quickly without, really thinking it through. Add it to the list of, kind of bizarre decisions and that I made at Dannybrook. But again, everyone was excited the next day. Everybody wanted to learn more history about the place, which I was like, that's awesome. We had it set up where Glenn was going to give a full rundown of the history of the house, the land, White Marsh, the Sandy Run Creek. Also, if you guys want to read more about this, because look, these podcast guys, just so it's real as real can be, I just shoot from memory. And there's a lot more details about the battle that took place at Dannybrook. If you go to Google and just search the Battle of White Marsh, it will tell you all about it. And it is fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. So Glenn agreed that he was going to give everybody this, kind of historical presentation of exactly how special this place was. And I'm so glad he did, because people were blown away. They were blown away by what the history of this place was. And for our first event to be the first people ever to have access to a building that literally George Washington was in, that his troops were in, this makeshift hospital. And by the way, people were finding all kinds of stuff throughout the evening. Old money they found, parts of weaponry. Like I said, there was a bayonet that was found. I mean, that's how untouched this land was. And here we are having our first event ever there, which I thought was pretty damn cool. So I'm relieved that that aspect of the event is over. Everyone got to know each other, for what it's worth, everyone had a good time. The photo that Adam Bly did was incredible. I emailed it to everybody, so they already, got something special from the event. The couple that was arguing seemed to have made up, and they were, being very cool to each other. I saw them, hand in hand, walking around the property, which again, during the day, that place is so beautiful. And I thought, okay, good. That's sewed up. Everyone was, excited. Glenn seemed more and more stressed out, which was concerning to me. The whole time, Glenn does this thing where he kind of, I don't even think he realizes it, but he kind of creates his own work to keep himself busy. And he was moving things all over the property the whole time. Just decided that this old truck of stuff he had that had been in the flatbed of the truck forever needed moved to another side of the property, and decided to do it in the middle of the event. And I could tell he's just doing this whenever he feels nervous. So me seeing that and caring about my friend, I'm like, okay, I really need to step this up and take complete control of this today. And let's start doing, the formal event type stuff, that people came for. We got the social stuff out of the way, which wasn't a horrible plan. And now it's time to really get into the ghost hunting and the history of the place and all that stuff. Which, like I said, Glenn gave an incredible presentation to everybody as well. Everybody's really excited about ghost hunting. And that night, for the first time, we're all going to go inside the Dannybrook home, and we're going to have an investigation. So that comes, and it's inside the house. It's what's crazy about Dannybrook is, again, during the day, it almost looks Norman Rockwell-ish, And then when the night comes, there is just a feeling about that place that me personally does not sit well. The whole time I was in the house, even with 30 other people, I felt incredibly uncomfortable. I did not want to be in there. I'm like, I'll take the woods again, man. But because it's my event, we're obviously investigating in there, I got to be in there. So as far as activity goes, I'm sitting in the main living room. It's hard to explain this without a topographical map, but basically the living room is connected to the dining room, and in the dining room there's a staircase to the second floor. In the middle of the event, with nobody moving, everybody is completely still. Right across where I'm sitting, right in front of me, we hear 6 loud footsteps. Thong, 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 thong. dong, dong, to the point where when it stopped, I didn't get a chance to say anything before everybody was like, what was that? I mean, it was very obvious that nobody was moving. There wasn't any room for anybody to move because at 30 people, you're pretty tight in there. That's probably more than should be in there at one time. And I was like, oh my God, my heart's beating. I'm just like, that was crazy. But right after that happens, I didn't know this, but when the investigation was over, my friend Lee comes up and he says, we saw it. And I said, you saw what? And he goes, I was standing with Glenn and a few other people that were there. And he goes, at the top of the stairs, we saw an apparition move left to right into a room, and they had a photo of it. And I can't remember if Lee took the photo or somebody else, but they showed it to me. And something was in the photo. It was very, very weird. It was translucent. It was tall. It was moving. It looked it had a bit of a motion blur to it, but you can definitely see that something was there. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe we're in there for 20 minutes and these big events happen, basically. That night, a bunch of other people decide that the house is cool, but they want to do the woods again. At one point, it was crazy how much stuff was happening because I was getting called, Chad, you got to come to the woods. People are calling you to the woods. And I would go out to the woods, and it was the same thing. We're seeing shadow men. We're seeing shadow men. And it's everybody is telling me, we saw it here, we saw it here, we saw it here, we saw it here. We're seeing glowing eyes. We're seeing glowing eyes in the woods. I'm like, wow. I didn't hear it, but at one point, everybody said they heard a gunshot, which I was in the house when that happened. Then, no sooner than I get back from the woods and then telling me what they experienced out there, I'm getting new reports of everything that's happening in the house. We heard this bang. We heard this bang. We saw this shadow person. Every single person there in one night of investigating, every single person that was there had an experience that they believed was paranormal activity. And I can't tell you now, having done, 90 of these, weekend-long paranormal retreat type events, for everyone to have an experience, everyone, that's so incredibly rare. That's maybe happened 4 or 5 times in 90 events, right? So I was just floored by the amount of activity that was going on. So about 1 a.m., everybody is kind of getting done with the investigating. There's some people that are tired and just want to turn it in. But there's other people that are just done with the investigating side and they just want to hang out more with new friends that they have. So everybody basically says to me, okay, we've done our investigating. Do you care if we have some more beers again? And I'm like, God, well, what do I do? I introduced the keg and everybody is done with investigating and they just want to hang out and go over what they experienced and talk about it and have some beers. And I said, okay, same rules. Nobody can, go inside the house. You got to stay out here. That night, everybody, again, starts, having some drinks. And I'm noticing that, Glenn, again, is seeming not angry, but just his demeanor is changing. And the more and more this is going on, the more and more he just seems a little more uncomfortable. And part of that was, his wife Sue and his children. This is kind of new, right? It's a new experience to have all these people show up and have all this paranormal stuff happen. Because once we all leave, all these stories are fresh now. And I'm thinking, how is this going to affect his family? And I think maybe he was thinking that too. But I didn't really get a chance to talk to him, at longevity at all when I was there because the event was going on. But I do remember a different married couple that was there, fight breaks out between them. Same thing, bunch of personal stuff, is flying back and forth. And I'm like, all right, man, I got to shut this down. I totally got to shut this down. So I did, I went and talked to them both and got it all, calmed down and got everybody chilled back out. And then went back to the fire area, pulled the guitar back out, started playing some songs and chilling. And that night ended up pretty much wrapping it up, and everything was kind of cool. And I thought, okay, this is our first event. A lot of problems here that I could see, a lot of things that we can do better. I guess we'll find out this coming week if everybody really did enjoy themselves. Because I did ask everybody, of course, at the end of it, did we have fun? Did you have a good time? Would you want to come to another event? And everyone was like, yeah, man, definitely, man. And I thought, well, they're not going to tell me, no to my face. So let's just wait and see in the coming week how people respond. And, to my surprise too a bit, because of, the way the first night went, I thought maybe people are just going to blast me, because we had alcohol. But it ended up actually going very well. Everyone had a blast. Everyone, had a great time. And I started getting tons of requests to hold another event. And, when I step back and look at it, I'm like, you know what? All things considered, there's a lot to build on here, and we can do this better than we've ever done it before. We know what not to include. We know what people want. The idea of people getting together on the first night, I thought was actually a very good idea, minus the alcohol. I knew then I would love to kind of recreate that and have a time period, because once you meet, people, and there's nothing more exciting than new friends, right? It's just fun. So the idea that you can, share an experience that's fun with new friends is, something that I wanted to really focus on, was the friendship and fellowship, factor. And I think today that holds true too. If you talk to anybody that goes to our events, they will tell you that the fellowship side of what we do and the family side of what we do is unparalleled. People have been coming back, and there's people that went to that first event that to this day are still going to events. So, and that was many, many years ago, guys, many years ago. So anyways, that event gets over, and everybody wants to do, wants us to throw another event. Now, over the course of the next year, I believe we threw 5 more events at 5 different locations, in which we really started fine-tuning this process to the point that, 5 events after that first one, that first event was completely unrecognizable from what we were doing even 5 events later. So it comes back to about a year later, and everybody is hitting me up saying, we want to do Dannybrook again. We've heard, so much about the place, and, finding bayonets, on the property, and George Washington was in the building, and there was a photo of an apparition, on the stairwell. And what about the marching in the woods? The legend and lore of the place had just grown a lot in a year. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll do another one. Let me call Glenn. Maybe this time we'll do it a little bit bigger. We'll do it 50 people, cut it off there. And then we do 2 groups of 25. Because there's so much property and so much area for people to do the camping thing, and that aspect of it was really cool. The camping side of it was a lot of fun. And I said, let me call up Glenn and see how he feels about doing something there, this time a little bit bigger. So I call Glenn up and I give him my my idea for the next event, and how I want it to run, and we'll do 50 people, 2 groups of 25. It'll be really formal. And, I could hear that, look, he wants to do it, but I could tell there's a pause. So I say to him, what's the problem, man? I mean, are you concerned with something? What's up? And he basically tells me a terrifying story about how over and over again, every night at 4:01 a.m., he was getting woken up. He was getting woken up over and over again. And then he tells me this story about how he and his wife, Sue, got into a disagreement, and they were kind of going back and forth at each other. And he hung up the phone in the midst of like a skirmish between them two. And he said right after he hung up, he got a voicemail. And he clicked on his voicemail, and it was him basically arguing with his wife. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, my voicemail of me arguing with my wife. So somehow that his phone got recorded, and I don't even know how that could happen. I'm like, well, that's pretty bizarre. And he's like, well, that's not even, the half of it. And he was like, something really terrifying happened to Sue. And I'm like, well, what is it? And Glenn's youngest daughter, Star, I don't remember how old she was at that time, probably 2 or 3, young. Basically, Sue was sleeping, and she woke up because Star wanted to go to the bathroom. So Sue gets up, and she's holding Star's hand, and they're walking down the hallway. And I forget exactly what Glenn told me Star said, but it was something kind of like, Mommy, where am I? And Sue looked down, and there's no child. So she was woken up by a spirit that had taken the image of her child, and she was walking down the hallway to take her to the bathroom. And then after this was said, she looks down, there's no child. Which, look, man, that would terrify anybody. And I'm like, whoa, so this is getting heavy there. And he's like, yeah, man, it's getting heavy. He was like, more and more stuff is happening, and it's definitely extremely haunted. And he's like, well, how do you feel about that? And look, for my friend, I'm worried. I want to talk to him more about it. As far as events go, that's why people go to these things. They want to experience real activity. So as long as people understand that some of this stuff has been, spooky and negative and really kind of scary, as long as they understand that and they want to, go into the investigation knowing that's a possibility, I get it. I'd be the same way. That's why I would go to these things. I would want to experience paranormal activity. So I say to him, look, has anybody been physically attacked or anything like that? He said, no. I'm like, all right, no one's like possessed or anything? He said, no. So I'm like, okay, so we have, a negative entity that's, trying to scare people, basically. So I'm like, okay. So we talked, through it all, and we decide that we're going to try it one more time. And look, if it goes bad, then we probably won't do it again. And if it goes good, we'll do another one at some point. So with that being said, the date is set. Now, what I should also add is, in addition to Dannybrook, at that time, Glenn's friend and Glenn had recently invested in this old bar. It was the first actual bar ever built in Philadelphia. It literally was constructed in like 1650. And when they were restoring it, they kept having to rehire remodelers because they kept quitting due to paranormal activity. They thought the place was haunted. Well, this has now been converted into a restaurant that on the 3rd floor, they have this screening room that they built for conferences and things like that. It was just an extra floor they had. And Glenn says, look, this time around, I know a friend who has the school bus, and we can now also, in addition to Dannybrook, we can take people over for a late night investigation. It may only be an hour, but a second location of a place that's got a tremendous history again, and also, if they want dinner, they can have dinner there as well too before. So it was kind of like a cool addition because it was basically now 2 locations that were haunted at the same event, which I was really stoked about. I'm like, this is awesome. So we do it. We launch it out there. This is the first time that I really kind of promote this event, knowing that there's 50 people that we want to bring instead of just a handful. And it goes really well. The whole thing sells out in I think it was one of our fastest events ever to sell out. I mean, it couldn't have been much more than a few hours, and those tickets were gone. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So the event rolls around, and I had no idea, guys, what was about to happen. But I show up, we get everything set for the event, and the first thing I realize is 50 people is way too many. When all these cars start showing up and people start just pouring out of the cars, and they're all camping, Um, yeah, 50 people was a lot of people, and it was going to be hard to manage everything. But we got together, got the team together. We had a great game plan for it, and I was stoked. But something really bizarre happened right away. And I'm just going to call them Joe and Janet. I'm going to change their names because I assume they wouldn't want people to know what the story I'm about to tell. But right away, this car pulls in, and this Joe and Janet hop out of the car. And this Joe has this very strong, like, Sopranos accent, and he's yelling, "Hey, Chad!" And, like, I mean, he's literally very, very charming and very, very charismatic, but he's talking to me like we know each other and we go way back, and just saying things like, "Yeah, you know me, man," and like stuff like that. "I do this, you know me," and all this stuff, to the point where I actually said to him, I said, hey Joe, do I know you? Like, have we met before? And he says to me, "We ain't never met in person, but you know me. You know me." And I'm going, huh, yeah, thinking in my head, I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. But the first thing that was interesting that happened is Car Janet, who was with him, just beautiful, just an absolute, I mean, knockout of it. Like, just, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, she's an 11. She is just absolutely gorgeous and very, very nice, loud Jersey kind of personality, but very nice. And he introduced her to me as his sister. So I thought, oh, wow, these guys are coming to the event brother, sister. That's interesting. So right away, he's like, "So where do I set up my stuff, man? We're camping out here. Where do I set it up? I want the best patch of land, you know?" And I'm like, oh yeah, no, wherever, man. I'm like, you guys are here early. They're like one of the first people that arrived. And I'm like, so you kind of got the pick of the land. This is where we're at. So I walk around and, with him and kind of talk to him. And he's like, "I've been following you for a long time, man. This is we wanted to do this for so long. I saw the last couple events you guys did." And I'm thinking, you couldn't have been following me for that long. Because, I mean, as far as events go, because we only started doing those like a year ago. But, whatever, it's cool. So what he does tell me is that he's never been to any kind of haunted house before. For some reason, and he doesn't know why, it's always scared him. The concept or idea of an event has scared him. But he's here to face his fears. And he says that, Janet has been to haunted houses, and, she's way into it. And, she basically told him, yeah, she wants to do this for sure. And she has plans on going to future events as well. And she's so excited to be, here and to be kicking this off because she really wants to make this a part of her life. And I'm like, oh, that's super cool, man. That's super cool, Also, to this event, I had, like I said, I had just, at this point, I had done quite a bit of Paranormal State, quite a few episodes. And I invited Heather Taddy to join me at this event as well. And so she does. Heather comes out as well. So everybody shows up. Like I said, it's a jam-packed event. 50 people. At that point, like I said, it's like our 6th event ever. The thing that I realized right away, and we should have done, is had security. Just in case anything goes wrong, right? You just want to have security there. You don't want to be the one to have to personally attend to any issue that happens. And I felt that right away. I was like, man, we should have had security. But we didn't. So everybody shows up, and right when everybody arrives, suddenly I hear this like old Revolutionary War music, and I look up the street, and it looks like George Washington and his brigade are like marching up the street. I'm like, what is going on? And I loved it. It was awesome. Glenn had basically hired these wartime reenactors to show up and kind of march and talk about the war and all this stuff. And everybody there loved it, man. They loved it. It literally looked like, there was an old Revolutionary War brigade on the property. So right away, everybody took photos with them. It was super cool, man. So we all talked about the event. We got all the attendees together. We talked about how things were going to go. There's no keg. There's no alcohol. There's no any of that. And basically what we say is the first night we were going to do an earlier partial investigation between like 7 and 9 p.m. at Dannybrook, and then we were going to head over to this haunted restaurant that he had, and then if people wanted to have dinner there, they could, and then basically after dinner, from 10 to like midnight, we would do an investigation there. Then we would come back to Dannybrook, in which we had scheduled from like midnight to whenever it was over, right? It could be 3, 4 in the morning if people are done and they're investigating. Because remember, you can go to bed anytime you want to in your tent, okay? So, and this is where things start to get really, really weird. By the way, Glenn's demeanor, which I'm gauging the whole time, I can tell that he's in an even darker place than I've ever seen him. His wife seems to be really uncomfortable, to the point where I feel bad. I feel like, man, maybe we just shouldn't have done this, And I chalked it up to, again, it might be because there's 50 people here, and this is all a little bit bigger than what we thought. But we did a lot of prep, and it was all manageable. It was all manageable. No one seemed lost. Everybody was fine. We had plenty of waters for people. We had plenty of snacks. We had, we really thought this through, and it was going well. So the 9 o'clock investigation happens, and we bring everybody into the house. Because this was going to be super short, we just wanted to bring everybody at once and just do this quick, hour, 2-hour investigation, and then we would all head over to the restaurant. So everybody comes in the house, and the first thing I do, and which is what I always do, is kind of lay down the ground rules. Like, here's the thing. Reach your hand out. Make sure you know everybody that's around you. Like, look at them. Make sure you know what they look like. So if you see their faces in the dark, you don't freak out. If something happens, do not take off running. No matter what you do, don't take off running. You could hurt other people. You can hurt yourself. You can run right into the wall. You can run right off stairs. Like, just don't run if you can help yourself. And, and then a list of other smaller things. So everybody's cool. Everyone's in their position. Everyone is sitting quietly. And I start calling out, hey, if there's anybody here, speak to us, let us know you're here. And this goes on for probably 10, 15 minutes. And nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. So I get to a place and I say, well, hey, listen, I go, if somebody else wants to call out, you can. It doesn't have to be me. So just, let me know you want to kind of like, take the helm and go for it. And all of a sudden, this Joe guy speaks up and says, Mr. Chad, is it okay if I do some calling out? I got some things I'd like to call out, And I'm like, yeah, brother, for sure. Go ahead. Now, I can't remember exactly what he said verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, is there someone here that's been following me tonight that's trying to scare me? If you're here, make yourself be known. And I remember thinking, oh, that's rather specific. Is there something here that's been following me, trying to scare me? So I'm kind of interested, I think the whole place was. And it gets quiet for probably 4 or 5 minutes. Not a word is spoken. Because everyone's just, waiting to see if something appears or shows itself. And I'm sitting there, and I kind of got my head kind of hanging down a little bit, and I'm just sitting down like Indian style. And all of a sudden, I hear this blood-curdling scream from Joe. Bah! And I mean, he face plants me. Hits me in the back with his knee as he's trying to get out of the building, and Indian style. Okay, so I'm not like the most flexible dude in the world, Like I said earlier, I have the agility of a mountain goat, Knee to the back, face plant, just pull the hell out of my back. I have a bad back anyways, and I am just like, what in the hell is going on? I think I actually screamed right after, like, what the F? I was so freaked out as to what was going on. And he just goes running through the building. And I remember it's completely dark in Glenn's place, so you can't really see what he's doing as he's running or where he's going. I just know he's hitting practically everything in the place on his way out. I literally face planted. So I'm like trying to figure out what in the hell is going on. And I'm like, Jesus. Everybody screams, by the way, of course. It's like a chain reaction. It's a domino effect. That stuff is transferable, So all I know is he went outside. Now this is, getting a little bit into the investigation. So we were planning on going over to Glenn's, haunted restaurant pretty soon. So the school bus is already there too. That had already pulled up to take everybody over. So once I stand up and kind of get my wits about me, my first kind of plan is make sure everybody in the building is okay, in Glenn's house is okay. And it takes a few minutes to kind of calm everybody down, and everybody kind of turns the lights on, and I'm just looking around the room, making sure everybody's okay. And I also recognize at that time that Joe's sister Janet, she's outside. She left and went with him too. And Taddy was there, and Taddy went outside just to make sure he was okay. So she was out there before me. So once I kind of calmed down, I'm just like, oh my God. I'm looking at Justin Holstein, who's there as well, and I'm like, what was that? He's like, I don't know, dude. Dude freaked out. Now remember, Joe Ansley is there as well too. And Ansley's looking at me like, whoa, dude. We got a loose one here, man. We got a loose cannon here. So I'm really interested as to see what happened to make him freak out like that, because not only was it a terrifying event, but now I've got to pull back because of it too, and I've face planted inside of Dannybrook. So I go outside, and Taddy comes up to me, and she was like, whoa, did you see that? And I'm like, no. She goes, you didn't see that? I go, no. And she goes, I come out here, and he's on the bus, and his sister's just kind of walking over here in front of the bus, but she's not getting on it. And he's on the bus like yelling and screaming and stuff. And she goes, so I start to step up on the bus just to see what's going on. And the guy just throws a bottle of water. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. He threw a bottle of water at you? And she's like, no, it wasn't at me. He was just going nuts. And he just was on the bus, and he just threw this bottle of water, and he was yelling and screaming about how this thing wouldn't take him and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. At this point, of course, Glenn's freaked out. And Glenn is coming up to me going, dude, this guy is off the reservation, man. Like, what are we going to do here? And I'm like, I go, listen, man, this stuff can be scary. He might not be off the reservation. He might just be really scared. Let me see what is going on here. So I go over and I talk to his sister, and I'm like, hey, listen, your family, he's kind of freaking out right now. Can you please do me a favor and go on the bus and talk to him and calm him down? And she takes a pause, and she looks at me, and she's like, in the most serious voice, she looks at me and she goes, what a pussy. Like, what? And she's like, you don't come to a ghost event and freak out because you see a ghost. So I say to her, well, but look, before you call him a pussy and judge him, I don't know what he saw. I'm like, this place is really weird. And I'm like, listen, the owner's wife has seen things that are here but not here. I go, so he may have very well seen something that we're just not seeing, and he saw it. And she's like, yeah, okay. Almost like she doesn't care. So I know she talks to him, and he comes off the bus, and he's calming down. And then I go and talk to him, and I'm like, hey, listen, man. I'm like, this stuff can be really scary. And I totally understand, and I totally get it. But I promise you, without question, you are stronger than it. It is not stronger than you. If you saw an image of an old soldier that was hurt, that would actually fall in line with this place. And that's why we have these events, because for people who want to experience the other side, we're in an environment with a lot of people that have some experience with this stuff. I'm like, but I promise you, man, you're going to be okay. You're like, all good. And he's like, yeah, you think so? And I'm like, yes, man. And I go, and honestly, I go, I need you to take a deep breath, because, you're really scaring people right now. And I don't want people scared of you. You know what I mean? I was like, if people are scared of ghosts, that's one thing, but I don't want them scared of you. And he's like, I don't want that either. I don't want that either. He goes, I just got to tell you, Mr. Chad, that was just like something else, man. It was just something else. And I'm like, well, what did you see? And he goes, suddenly in the corner, he goes, I look, and he's got like a bandage on his head. There's a white bandage on the head. The moonlight's kind of coming through the window, and suddenly I realize, oh my God, that's a person. That's an actual like soldier. And he's like, and right as I get a good focus on him, he just comes at me and he goes, whoa. I'm like, what? He goes, I can't believe no one heard it. I'm like, it made that sound? And he goes, it went, whoa. So I'm thinking in my head, how bad I would freak out if I was sitting in a room with a bunch of people and I looked over and saw something kind of white, and then my night vision focused in, and I saw a soldier missing a leg with crutches, and it started floating at me going, blah. So I just said to him, I said, well, listen, man, for what it's worth, I get it. I would have freaked out too. And I'm like, but just so you know, I go, did you feel anybody that you ran into when you ran out? He goes, yeah, I hit a lot of things. I'm sorry about that, man. I go, well, I was the first thing you hit, man. I'm like, you face planted me. Just knee to the back, face to the ground, man. And he's like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. So I'm having like, a decent conversation with this guy, and I'm feeling a lot better about this. Because you have to understand when you go to these events, there are real things that happen that can be very scary. So I just tell him, I said, well, listen, we're going to head over to this restaurant. I haven't been there before. I do know that it's haunted, but we're going to the 3rd floor. I'm like, we're going to watch American Ghost Hunter over there. We're going to have some dinner. We're going to do a little bit of ghost hunting, and then we're going to head back here again for a late night ghost hunt. And he's just like, okay, sounds good. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So I'm like, thank God. Everything's calm. Everything's cool. I go back. Everybody's on the bus. Everyone's chill. I hop on the bus and I say to everybody, all good, guys. Let's do this. Let's go have a great time. Sit down, and Justin and Joe Ansley are both looking at me and they're like, hey, man, are things cool? And I'm like, I think so. But there is a part of me that's still uneasy, man. I'm like, so let's really focus on, our attendees and not our own experiences, man. We've seen ghosts. We've experienced all that. Let's just make sure this goes well for everyone. And so right before we leave, Glenn says, hey, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, man, okay. So I hop off the bus, and Glenn is going, I want that psychopath off my property. I'm going, Glenn. I'm like, I promise you he's cool. He's acting totally cool. He just got really scared. And I said to him, I said, just, think of the stuff you've seen, the stuff I've seen. And he's like, I don't know, man. I got kids here, man. I got kids. Glenn has, like I say, he's got little girls that, to me, are like family to me. And I said, no, I understand. I'm like, we're going to watch him. We're going to make sure it's all cool. And thankfully, one of the attendees there is Rob Damaris, who you guys might know from Ghost Hunter International. Well, Rob is like a national judo champion, so he's a BMF, man. Like, I know that if things got to a crazy situation and we had to remove somebody, I know I could call on, Rob as well, which I told Glenn. I said, I'll talk to Rob and, just say, hey, if things get really weird and we have to make a guy leave, can you help? And Glenn was like, okay. He was a little more calmed down. So we make our way over to the restaurant, and right away, I'm like, thank God we're all going to eat some food before we do a little ghost hunting here, before we watch American Ghost Hunter. So we got 2 or 3 hours that we're going to be over there. And I'm like, this is what everybody needs. They need a good moment to calm down, have some fun, just kind of, chill out. So that is exactly what happens. Everybody orders dinner. Everyone's getting along. We're back on what I would say is a good path for the night. So once everybody has their food, we go ahead and we start American Ghost Hunter, and everybody's watching it. Because like I said, this is the 3rd floor of this building, and they have a screen in there, and it's set up for like meetings and stuff. So it's a really cool setup. So once everybody has their food and they're eating, I literally look at Justin and I'm like, okay, everything's cool. And he's like, yeah, man, seems cool. And I go, okay, I'm going to go have a cigarette. I'll be right back. So I go outside. I'm not even eating at this point. I'm so nervous and nerve wracked. And beyond that, my back is killing me. Because, man, when I tell you this guy planted me, like, he hit me so hard. So hard, man. If that would have been an MMA fight, I'm tapping, man. Like, he hit me so hard. And so I'm outside. I'm just sore as can be. Thankfully, everybody else seems to be, having a good time. And, but, that energy, of him freaking out and everything, and it is still present. So we get done. We end up having a pretty short investigation there, in which a lot of people were saying to me that they really just wanted to get back to Dannybrook, which I totally get. So we decide we're going to head back to Dannybrook a little bit earlier than we planned. So everybody shows up, hops on the bus. Thank God, everything is fine on the way back over. We land there and we investigate for probably another 30 to 40 minutes. And at this point, it's probably close to 1:32 in the morning, and people are just starting to get tired. And Glenn, really is wanting to kind of close down the Dannybrook house at that point. It's just been a weird night, and he's been stressed out, and I get it totally, man. I mean, I was stressed out. So we start, this bonfire, because part of the event was to play some music and just kind of chill out and do some ghost stories. And it was super cool. I mean, there was this nice big, like I said, bonfire, and Glenn had some friends that came to the event that were in like this, like an acoustic band. And so they're playing this music, and they do covers, their own original music, very hippie-ish type of stuff. Not necessarily my cup of tea, but it works for what we're doing. And, I'm telling different ghost stories at different times, and then these guys would play a few songs, and I would tell another ghost story, and they'd play a few songs. So it's getting to be, I would say fairly late, probably 2:30, 3 in the morning. And I'm just kind of sitting watching the campfire, and like I said, this band is playing their acoustic music, and all of a sudden I hear from behind me, like a foot behind me, I just hear, "Stop the music!" And I'm like, what? And I turn around, and it's this Joe guy. And he goes, "I got some things to say. I got some things to say." And everybody is like, what is going on right now? And his sister, girlfriend, whoever she is kind of sitting there looking at him like she's looking at him like she's freaked out. So I'm kind of freaked out, and like I said, he's a foot behind me. Everybody's super quiet, and he starts pacing in this very kind of aggressive way, like the way somebody would walk before they got into a fight. And he says, after he says, "I got some things to say," he kind of starts speaking. Guys, the only way I can describe this is in like this poetic prose. He just starts speaking very poetically about why he came there, and his purpose for wanting to connect to the other side. But as he's talking like I did something wrong to him. Like, basically, he should have been shielded from these ghosts because their power is far more greater than anything that he could have imagined. And I'm telling you guys, at this point, every ounce of me is moving into fight or flight, because he's just too close. He's right behind me. He's being super loud. He's pacing aggressively. He's talking like I did something wrong to him. And at this point, Joe Ansley and Justin Holstein, those guys are like my brothers. We have been through everything together in life, 30 plus years knowing each other. We can speak with eyeballs, man. We don't got to like even say the words. And I look at Joey, and Joey's kind of probably about 10 feet to the right of me. And I look at him and I nod my head. And without me saying it, Joey knows what I'm saying, which is, dude, you need to move, in position behind this guy. Because I'm about ready to hop up and just go nuts, man. Because this is super uncomfortable. He's not letting anybody talk. He's pacing aggressively. He's speaking aggressively towards me. And I just kind of nod at Joey, and Joey, looks back at me and nods and moves into position. I look to the left of me. Justin is over to the left of me. Same thing. I just kind of nod. He looks back and sees Joey, and he moves back. Once they're in position, I'm like, okay. I know that if this guy does anything now, that they'll be on him long before he can even, get a hand on me. And he keeps going on and on and on. And this was long, guys. He probably spoke for 10, 15 minutes straight, and he wouldn't let a word in edgewise, okay? And he got to the very end of this long, poetic speech. And the weird thing about this, like I said, is it was almost like it was a different personality, because he spoke, it was just so poetic. Like everything sounded like he was reading from a script or something. And I was the only person that picked up on this. Like everybody there did. And everybody was made completely uncomfortable by this situation. And I'm just sitting there going, oh man, this dude is going to... There's a reason why he's pacing right behind me. He's like a foot from me, going back and forth. Probably every 7 feet he'll turn around and come back and pace right behind me. And he gets to the very end of it. And at some point, it switched over to he wanted to thank me now for providing a situation where he could face something that scared him to his soul, and he wanted to commend me because if we do this, week after week, it's the bravest thing he's ever seen, and he can never do it, and he wants to let everybody know that this will be his last event that he ever does, and it was his first, so that he's never doing it again. He's got more than enough, and that's it. He's done, and he's out. It's like a mic drop. And he turns around and just walks away, and it's dead quiet, and Janet just burst out laughing like he's a fool. And I'm like sitting here going, man, somebody shut her up, man. Like I do not need them fighting or him turning around and feeling self-aware and nervous or anything. Like he's walking to his tent to go to bed, and let's leave it like that. And he goes and he gets in his tent, and it's just super quiet. Like you could hear a pin drop. Nobody's saying anything. So I, just kind of get up and I turn around and I walk over to Justin and Joey, and they come really close to me, and we're kind of whispering, and people are slowly starting to talk. And I look at Justin and Joe, and I'm like, did you guys get the feeling that dude was about to attack me? And they were both like, oh yeah, dude. Especially Justin, he was like, dude, yeah, no, he goes, trust me, I had an angle on him. He wasn't going to be able to do it, but it felt that way in a big way. I go, yeah, dude, I've just never been so freaked. I'm just done with this whole night. I'm done with it all, man. Like, this place is weird, and the weirdest things happen, and people act strange here, and I'm so over this place. And all of a sudden, Glenn comes up to me, and he goes, dude, that freak has got to go. Like, these guys, both of them, I want them gone. I am not going to sleep with them on the property. And I'm like, okay. At this point, it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning, like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and the event ends the following morning. So the middle ground was, I said, well, listen, dude, I fear that if I try to make him leave right now, or her leave right now, that it's going to be just a massive debacle that nobody can control. I'm like, so I will stay up. I will watch his tent. I will make sure that dude doesn't go anywhere near your house, anywhere, near anybody, period. He's in his tent. I'm like, I will watch him. And Glenn's like, okay. So at that point, we just kind of tell everybody, look, man, it's been a long night, and it's been an eventful one for sure. And by the way, people are stoked. I mean, it's not like people aren't having fun. Like, everybody is freaked out in that scared type of way, but listen, this is priceless entertainment, man, for what it's worth, for them, not for me. I mean, I am, the level of anxiety that I experienced during this event was just unbelievable, and it just taught me from that point forward that we have to have security. We have to vet people that are coming. And again, keep in mind, this is like, my fourth or fifth event ever, and now I've done 90 of them. So, we have this stuff, down pat now, and we know how to do it. We know what to look for and watch for and to make sure that things are okay. But at that time, we were just very much learning, this process. So what's really interesting is I go and I literally set my chair by my tent, facing his tent, which is a good, 14, 15 feet away from me. And I'm committed to staying up the whole night. I'm just going to make sure, the whole night, by the way, again, it's the next 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to make sure that these guys, don't do anything stupid, that he doesn't decide he's going to wake everybody up and now speak to everybody again. So I sit there and, I just watch their tent. Justin and Joe are like, Joe Ansley, they're like, are you cool? You need to stay up? I'm like, no, I'm good. You guys are cool. Go to bed. I'll just make sure it's all good. So I'm staring at their tent, and I must have fallen asleep because I blinked my eyes, and they're gone. Their tent's gone. They're gone. Vehicle's gone. There's not, nothing to even indicate they were ever there. They're gone. And I remember thinking, wow, how did that happen? I couldn't have been asleep for more than, 20, 30 minutes maximum. And they're gone. I didn't hear them leave. I didn't hear them pack anything up. They both had, very loud kind of Jersey personalities. Yeah, I don't know. But they were gone. And I remember the following morning, everybody was so cool. I mean, everybody that came, people were coming up to me and they're just like, kind of saying what I was saying. They're like, listen, I realized this was anxiety filled for you, but this was just wild, man. This whole thing was wild. It just spread through the paranormal community that, Calek has wild events, man. This Dannybrook place is crazy, And suddenly Glenn was telling me in the following months, like everybody in the world was calling Dannybrook, from different, productions that wanted to do TV shows there and episodes to, different event companies that wanted to come there. And to Glenn's credit, he was always, a good friend that was like, nah, my boy Chad could come out here, but that's it. And Glenn, if you're ever listening to this, I love you for that, man. And Glenn was always a great guy to everybody that came out there. Was always very, very good to the attendees and everything. And that was a wild event. But that morning, I just said to Glenn, he's like, so what happened? When did they leave? I'm like, I don't know. They left. And he was like, well, did they say goodbye? I'm like, dude, they were just gone. I don't know how, they woke up, broke their tent down, packed all their stuff up, hopped in their, it was a Blazer they had, and left here without anyone, hearing or not. Because I asked around. Once everybody was up, I was like, hey, did anybody see, the couple, Joe and Jan, anybody see them leave? And nobody did. Nobody. Not a person there saw them leave. Now my wild conspiratorial mind was like, I wonder if they were real. I wondered that enough that I went back to look at the PayPal ticket confirmation. They were real. They were real people. So, and again, their name was not Joe and Janet, because I'm truthfully not trying, to hurt them in any way or, to make them feel bad, because, look, these things, when you experience the paranormal, there's no handbook for how, this will go. And it can really, really freak people out. And, they had a real tough time, or at least he did. He had a very, very tough time. As far as, the floating guy that he saw, I don't know. It's one of those things where, you never want to say to someone, you did or didn't experience that, because you don't know. I don't know what he experienced. I know that, he freaked out, man, in a big way, in a big way. But what I also know is that when this event was over, I kind of felt like this is probably a place that I should stay away from in the future. Just the energy was so stressful. The place caused me to make all kinds of decisions that I wouldn't typically make. Every time I was there, I wound up with the worst, just guttural feeling of just anxiety and fear and stress. And look, I'm watching, people freak out and throw bottles, and like people are having crazy experiences everywhere, which is awesome, but like none of it felt safe. It always felt like at any moment this could go from like, uncomfortable to really bad. And I had seen it. I had seen the influence on not only myself, but everybody else that's around there. And I had spoken to Justin, to Joe, to Glenn, to like other attendees, and just said, so, do you feel like you were yourself out here? And over and over and over again, everyone came back and said, not really, not really. I was never able to fully get comfortable, even though, there's paranormal stuff going on, you should still have a level of comfort, right? But it always felt like there was some negative force just swirling through the air and pushing people in a direction. And look, man, I felt it, and I agreed when other people said it, and I was just like, look, man, the experiment in my mind has been concluded, and this place definitely, for some reason, has a negative spiritual influence. Plus there's just all kinds of stuff that I'm seeing, happen and take its effect on Glenn and his family. There was a noticeable difference every time I went back. They all seemed a little less happy, I guess I can say, every time I went back there. I was just concerned. I was really concerned. And that was also a big reason why I had decided no more Dannybrook events. But it's fascinating to me. It's the same reason why, I grew up in this incredibly haunted house and experienced these horrific events. And you would think that someone would go, okay, I've had enough of that. I don't want to ever be around anything haunted again. But then, what do? I embark on a 25-year journey, down the road to find the world's most bizarre, most mysterious, most unexplainable events and try to get as close to them as I can. I am just fascinated by things that I don't understand. And, some would say it's an unhealthy fascination, but for better or worse, it is the nature of who I am. So about 2 or 3 years goes by, and we haven't done an event there. We've been all over the country. We've done tons of events. They've all been amazing. They've all been amazing events. And it just pops in my head. Dannybrook does. Dannybrook just pops in my head. And at that time, I had just started working with a new partner, Thomas Lee Bottom, who I adore him as a human being, love him as a friend. He's an incredible partner, but he's one of the most fascinating people I've ever met. He's one of the most traveled people I've ever met. He's been all over the world. I can sit and listen to his stories forever as a storyteller and somebody who does that for a living. He's one of those guys that I can listen to his stories for hours. I'm fascinated by him, and we're just now getting to know each other. He had been to different events of mine. He had seen, how well they go, and he was a big supporter of how much touring we do. So he knows that this is something that I do. I've been touring, the country since I was 18 years old, starting with my bands, and in many different packages, I guess you could say. I have just lived on the road for most of my adult life. So he knows that we know how to put on events, and he knows that we're good at it, and we like doing it. And I started telling him about Dannybrook, and he had seen past videos and stuff from being there. And I told him, I said, the thing about this place is I really believe there's just something negative there that has an overwhelming force. But I'm drawn to it, and I haven't been there for 2 or 3 years. And I told him about the past stories and the things that we had experienced there. And so I decided I'm going to go back one more time. I'm going to go back one more time, and I'm going to take Thomas with me. But this time, we're going to do it like we did the first event, minus the keg and the drinking. But we're going to do, no second building, no haunted restaurant, no school bus. We're going to do 15 to 20 people, small, just kind of one more time, an official farewell to Dannybrook. Because when we did the last event, we didn't announce or advertise this is the final Dannybrook, you know what I mean? So this time we're like, listen, we're going to do something really special for our biggest fans, and it's going to be like invite only type of thing. So we started with our most supportive fans who have been to the most events and have been there the longest, with us, and we sent them out invites. And then once, those were taken up, we had a few other spots left, so we opened it up to the general public, and I think in a day the tickets were gone. It was like 20 people that were going to come out. And the lineup was going to be myself, Joe Ansley was going to come, Mary Beth Wiley, and also at that time, I had the opportunity to bring my daughter out there. So she was going to come as well, not to the event. I would never take Gracie ghost hunting inside Dannybrook. She was not going to sleep at Dannybrook. I'd got a hotel for her and MB as well. It was just a chance during the day for me to spend time with Gracie. So we decide, all right, we're going to do this. So everybody's going to fly in first to Philly, and then, we'll meet and, we'll get our car. That's the first step. Well, that morning I wake up, and before I left, I had the most terrifying nightmare ever. I don't even want to repeat it because it involved people I love being killed in Philadelphia. And I'm just not even going to get into it because it was terrifying. It was one of those dreams where, like, you ever woke up, like those of you listening right now, you ever woke up out of a nightmare and for a good 10 seconds, it seems real? Like it takes you a while for your brain to realize, wait a minute, that wasn't real. That was a dream. Like that's how real it was that morning. I was just like, well, oh my God. I woke up and I almost just burst out into tears, and it took me about 10 seconds to realize, hey man, you're good. No one's dead. It's all good. I'm like, God, that's crazy because I hardly ever dream. Hardly ever. So I wake up, shake it off, hop in the shower, start packing my bags. The phone rings. It's Joe. He's incredibly sick. He can't make it. I'm like, oh, man, bummer, dude, because, look, if you've ever been around Joe at our events, or Joe in general, Joe is one of the most charismatic, fun-loving people in the world, and I know all of you guys that support me, I get your requests daily to see Joey again at an event or on tour or something. That will happen at some point, because I know he's dying to see you guys, too. We're just working on different paths right now, but I knew that everybody would be bummed that Joe wasn't there, so that kind of sucked right away. But he was sick, and I could hear him on the phone. He was throwing up. He couldn't stop throwing up, and he was just like, I don't know what is going on, but I am throwing up like crazy. And I'm like, that's super weird. So I hop on the plane, and I'm going to meet Thomas, Mary Beth, and Gracie at the airport in Philly, in which I have, the biggest SUV in the world reserved, and it had been reserved for 2 months, right? So we land there, and first off, it's absolutely pouring rain, just pouring rain. I mean, this was crazy. The sheets of rain that was coming down was insane. So we get to the car dealership, we walk in right away, and they're like, hey, we don't have your vehicle. All the SUVs are gone. You just got to take whatever, we can give you. And I'm like, okay, no problem. So they pull around. I can't even remember the name of the car, but this was the smallest thing I've ever seen. I mean, this thing, it was not like the 2-seater Le Car, but it was damn close. And I was just like, I can't even fit in this thing to drive it. Like, what are we doing here? And I go back in and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, well, this is all we got. It's take it or leave it. I'm like, take it or leave it? I'm like, well, first off, the reservation that I had was like $24 a day. I'm like, what's the reservation on this? And they're like, oh, well, this is, I guess it was some high-end luxury car, but God, I wish I could remember what kind of car it was. It was just so small, and it was like, it was built for one person to drive it. And he was like, well, this is, $120 a day. I was like, $120 a day? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, no, not for you. He was like, because we didn't have the car, you'll maintain your same price. It'll be the same price for you. And I'm like, what do I do about the fact that I can't fit in it? And they're like, well, this is all we got. Take it or leave it. So I'm like, oh my God. So I walk out and I explain this to Thomas and MB. And like I said, I got Gracie with me. And I'm like, we're just going to have to figure this out. So somehow we jam every bag and everything we have into this thing. It's the most uncomfortable drive in the world. I mean, it is terrible. But we make our way to Philly. Right when we get to Glenn's house, we've got about an hour before everybody else starts to show up. I get a message from Glenn saying, hey, meet me up the street at this restaurant. So I go meet Glenn, and he says to me, we have kind of a problem. And I'm like, what? And he was like, haven't had the chance to tell Sue about the event yet. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, I haven't really told her yet about it. And I'm like, why? And he's like, honestly, I just kind of forgot. And I'm like, forgot? What the hell? like we just spoke about it 2 or 3 days ago to make sure it was all good. And he's like, yeah, I understand. And by the way, Glenn at this point has lost so much weight. So much weight. And I'm not saying he looks bad, but he has just lost so much weight. And it's noticeable. I'm just like, God, he's really skinny. And now throughout the day, I remember asking him about it too. I'm like, how have you lost so much weight? And he's like, oh, stress. And I'm like, wow, So I say to him, well, what are we going to do? People are going to show up. And he's like, well, it'll be okay. And if I'm thinking, he's probably thinking what I'm thinking in the sense that I adore Sue. Like, Sue is my friend. Like again, his daughters, call me Uncle Chad. Like, they're family to me, So I'm thinking, well, here's the good thing. It's a small event, 15, 20 people. We're camping. We're not using the house. We're not going in the house to sleep or anything. So really what we're talking about is a couple hours, on the first and second night that we would be in the house, and that would be it, So what we decide is, obviously as a courtesy, we'll find, a super nice hotel, and we'll put Sue and the kids up in that hotel if they want that. I figure it's the least we can do. So we're already off to a nerve-wracking start. You know what I mean? One of the things that's crazy is from the torrential rains that had happened, there's just a second Sandy Run Creek that's running through Dannybrook. It's like the creek had just overflowed, and a massive amount of water is basically splitting Dannybrook in half. So I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do about this water? Because we're camping, right? They're setting up tents. So what we decided we're going to do is just basically camp further away from Dannybrook at the back of the property. Well, what I didn't know at that time is the back of the property to where the forest starts, it's kind of a gray area as to where Glenn's land ends and where the public forest starts. So we don't know that. And Glenn's just kind of like, oh, you're cool. Just set up back there. And so we start setting up. Now, right away, things are pretty cool. I mean, everyone's just super. The people that are there that have been there before definitely have that reminiscent, because like I said, during the day, even with the rain during the day, it's just beautiful. That place is beautiful. I'll post some pictures of Dannybrook on my Facebook page too, so you guys can see it. And yeah, it's really incredible. So we get set up and everyone's kind of having fun and we're just chilling, and I'm feeling pretty good. So I break out the guitar and I start playing guitar, and Gracie loves that. So Gracie's watching me playing guitar and she's running around playing in the grass. And then I look over And Gracie just smiles at me, and I smile at her, and I'm like, God, I'm just so happy that I get to see her today. And I go, I love you, baby girl. And she looks at me with the biggest smile ever and just projectile vomits. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, what the hell? And I look over, I'm like, hey, are you okay? And, and she's kind of looking at me like, you freaked out, of course, right? A child projectile vomiting. And I'm like, what is going on? She takes about 5 steps and does it again. And I'm like, oh my geez. And of course, Mary Beth is like freaking out, like, what is going on? So we decide, right then and there that MB and Gracie have to go back to their hotel room so she could take care of her and monitor her. And if she's sick, she's got to go to the doctor. And I'm not going to have my daughter run around in the heat and rain puking, you know what I mean? So that obviously takes MB out of the equation for the event as well, because rightfully so, Gracie comes first. And the thing about that is, mentally, it totally messes with me because it's hard to throw an event when I'm worried about my daughter being sick and, wanting updates to know what's going on. Is she still throwing up? Is she not? Is she resting? How is she doing? I just couldn't focus on the event at all, because when you look down into the eyes of, this incredible creation that you love more than life itself, and you see that they're sick and they're scared, every natural instinct in you is to, just overwhelm them with love and protection and make sure they're okay. And thankfully, obviously, Mary Beth is there, so I know she's going to be completely taken care of. But it's still hard because, your heart just, your heart's with your child, And so right away, this is a terrible event that happens. And I know the rest of the event's going to be very difficult. So now Joey's not there. Mary Beth's taken out of commission for the event. And, I'm checking in on my poor daughter like every 20 minutes or so. And, I'm at this event right now knowing that Glenn's wife doesn't even know we're there. And they haven't even showed up yet. Now, again, it's not like I didn't check in with Glenn. I did. I called him. I mean, everything the same as every other time. And, and to Glenn's, credit, he's saying to me, listen, I know this is messed up, but look, it's going to be a wonderful event. And just like the last ones, people are going to, it's all said and done. They're going to love it. It's going to be fun. So I'm like trying to reset and get, this positive vibe going on. And suddenly I see Sue show up. She pulls in, looks and sees at what's going on, and turns around and leaves. I'm just like, whoa, what's going on there? And thankfully she came back probably 15, 20 minutes later. I'm sure she just pulled in, saw it, and was like, what is going on? I need to go wrap my head around this. So she comes back, and, Glenn goes in and talks to her, and, he comes back out, and he's like, yeah, she's upset. And I'm like, yeah, man, I suppose she is, if she doesn't know what's going on, because look, I can do a lot of things when I book events. When I call Glenn and say, can we do an event? And he says yes, then it's not like I can't call Sue. Like, that's kind of his deal, He's got to clear it, So, and for the record, I'm certain it was just an honest mistake, and somehow it got lost in the chamber of Glenn, his life and everything that he was doing. And by the way, Glenn probably does, and I'm not kidding, like 4 times the daily work of the average person. Not only does he have his jobs that he does for a living, but he's just an active volunteer. He works with so many different groups. He does like this local talent TV production for City Hall. Like, I mean, he's constantly restoring his house. Like, he does a lot. I mean, he has restaurants that he's an owner or partial owner of. He's opening a new restaurant. So he's always incredibly busy. And I've always found that to be an incredibly powerful characteristic of him. Is just the guy is a workaholic, man. And but we're in a tough situation right now, so he pretty much says, I don't know if we can do this or not. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't know if we can hold the event or not. And I'm like, that's going to be a real big problem, man, because we're all here, man, right now, and pretty much, I say to him, uh, you know, we need to be able to do this, but I get it. Like, it's got to be under Sue's blessing. We're not invading a home. So I got to know she's okay, or I guess we're going to have to just shut this thing down, And he's like, well, let me, go talk to her some more. And he does, and he pretty much comes back out and he's like, yeah, she's just really upset. And I'm like, well, can I talk to her? And he's like, sure. And I'm thinking again, I know Sue, Sue's my friend, and his daughters are there, by the way, now too. And I go inside, and out of respect for her, I'm not going to repeat what was said. But I guess what hit me overwhelmingly, again, the nature of everybody, their personality in general. Remember I said earlier that every time I went back there, people just seemed a little darker, It just seemed like a little more life was sucked out of people. And what was really bizarre is his daughters seemed really upset, and they seemed indifferent to me, almost like they didn't even know me. And these are the same girls that the last time I saw them, I mean, it was, hugs for Uncle Chad, and I remember wanting to say that to Glenn too. Like right after I talked to Sue, I wanted to go, Glenn, do you see what this place is doing to you guys? Like, this is super dark, man. This is all like super dark, but I didn't, because I'm trying to resolve this. So basically, Glenn talks with her more, and then he comes back out and he says, okay, we need to get these tents up and move them closer to this line as soon as possible. And I'm like, okay, I'll let people know. And he's like, no, as soon as possible. And I'm like, okay, I'll let him know. And he goes, no, dude, the cops are coming here right now, and don't worry, it'll be fine. But we got it. I'm like, whoa, why are the cops coming here? And he's like, because we don't know where that land really ends back there. And Sue is saying they can't be back there, but I know that I own this part of this land here, so you have to move it here. And he's like, but don't worry, I'll talk to the police. And oh my God, I'm just sitting here going, what are we doing? This is insane. My stress again is through the roof. I'm just freaking out. So I'm like, okay, man, there is just nothing could go more wrong than this. Thankfully, once Sue calmed down, she said, okay, everybody can stay here. It'll be totally cool. Now, Glenn's mother-in-law was staying there as well, because she helps to take care of his son, Jerry. And what was really bizarre about the whole thing was, it was agreed that everybody could stay there and it'll be fine. But there was this new rule that was kind of put down, and I'm not sure where it came from, but suddenly they were saying that no one could use the bathroom in the house. And which I'm going, what do you mean? Like, if no one could use the bathroom, like, people got to go to the bathroom, man. And so this kind of went back and forth, this argument about the bathroom. And eventually it was worked out where, we would make trips. Because there was like a couple blocks away, there was a gas station and a Wawa where you could use the bathroom. But again, I'm absolutely mortified by this scenario. Like, mortified. So needless to say, I already pull everybody together, and I'm just like, hey, just right away, everybody knows, any event that you want to go to for the rest of the year, free. It's on the house. This is not what we advertise. This is not what we do. Everything has been going wrong since I landed here. This is just not what we do, So, as the day and the night is going on, I start getting sick. And I'm like, oh no, what is going on? I start throwing up like crazy. So we have Joey, who's been throwing up like crazy. Now my daughter is throwing up like crazy. Now I'm throwing up like crazy. Out in the woods, whenever anybody's looking, I'm running out to throw up and trying not to let people know that I'm sick. So that night, I come and talk to Thomas. Thank God Thomas was there for me, man. And he came through like a champ. I said, Thomas, I hate to ask this of you. I haven't seen Gracie all day. I don't know what's going on with her. I'm also sick. I need to go, be a daddy right now so I can do this event, so I can, have my head here. Could you take everybody here downtown to Philadelphia and just kind of entertain people, just walk around with them, have a good time, see all the historic spots, all of that stuff. In which I will always owe Thomas for this. He came through like a champ. He was like, absolutely, that's cool. And at the same time, remember, I'm trying to impress my partner. Thank God he had seen other events that I had done. He knows this is not how it goes. But God, it was terrible. Everything about it was terrible. So that happens. That's cool. We decide to meet back later on that night, in which that night we're going to go, ghost hunting into the forest. And everybody did. And again, that night, they all saw the same thing. The black shadow people throughout the forest. And they are there, man. And I am telling you, they are there like they are there on the 4th floor of Waverly Hills. You will see them. And I wish I knew what the black shadows were. Because historically speaking, when it comes to shadow people, they're just voyeurs. They just watch. So why there would be so many in the woods there, I don't know. I don't know. But to make a long story short, we get done investigating. Everybody turns it in for the night. The next day comes, and I'm just praying that things go better. We wake up. The heat that sets in is just ungodly. The heat is ungodly. Well, throughout the night, even though it had been arranged that we could use the bathroom, somehow the door got locked. So 20 people wake up and are dying to use the bathroom, and they can't get in the bathroom. The house is open, but where the bathroom is locked. So right away, it's like emergency 911. Like every little thing that could possibly go wrong was going wrong. Every little thing that could go wrong was going wrong. Thankfully, that night, we agreed again that we would only spend a short amount of time in the house, which we did. And there were a few things that happened. And then people went out to the forest again, which, by the way, the whole time that we're there, Gracie is just not feeling well. She went and saw the doctor, and they just said she must have some kind of flu bug. But she's not feeling well the whole time. I'm not feeling well the whole time. It's just everything is going wrong. So after another rough night of sleep, finally Sunday morning comes, in which I am so ready to never see Dannybrook again, ever. And I will forever love the attendees that came to that event, because everyone said to me, listen, man, despite all the weird stuff, it's all an adventure. We all saw, incredible stuff in the forest. We had a blast. Like, Chad, take a deep breath. Like, you're all good. But I know better. Like, I believe that, but I also believe that they just love and support, us and what we do, which I will always, I will always be thankful for the love and support that we receive from our fans and friends and what feels like family. And that morning, Gracie is finally starting to feel a little better. And I'm just trying to get out of there because I just want to, get her to a place where she's home and she's comfortable, and I know she's good. And, we still have the drive back to, the airport. So you would think once we leave Dannybrook, we'll be done with this madness forever, right? So we make our way back to the airport. We pull in with the car, we unload all our stuff, and the guy hands me a receipt for $880. I'm like, oh my God. And we don't have time to fight over this because our flight leaves in like an hour and a half. And I'm like, oh my God. So we unload all of our stuff. I go inside. I'm going, what is this? What is this? And he's like, well, that's the cost of your car rental. I'm like, no, it is not. I go, I rented an SUV. You guys, I went over the whole spiel with them. You guys didn't have it. You told me this is the only car you had. I double checked with you, and you said that I would not pay this rate, that I would pay the original rate that I booked. What are you doing? And they're like, well, we never agreed to that. I blow up. I blow up. I am just in there, call him every name that I can. Then I walk outside. I show this to Thomas. I'm like, Thomas, look at this. And this just pisses Thomas off too. He goes inside and just lays into him as well. But they're basically saying, well, you can get this fixed and reversed, but you got to wait and talk to our manager here, and then he'll give you some number that you have to. It's a long process, right? And then they say within 90 days, it'll be reversed. I'm going, oh my God. Oh my God. I'm like, so is this something I can handle once I get back to California then? And they're like, sure, you just got to call this number and go through this process. I'm like, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we load everything up on the bus that drops you back off at the gates, right? We get everything on the bus, and they say, what airline are you on? And we say, we're on United. And we're sitting there driving on the bus, and they're calling out the gates to drop people off. And I look at Thomas and Mary Beth, and I go, want to bet when it gets to our gate, they just don't call it and keep driving? Which, if they don't drop us off there, we're going to be late for our plane. So I'm sitting there looking at United right in front of us, right? And they'd already called off like American, the next one Frontier, and I could see in the distance United. We're getting closer, 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 closer. No call. I just scream, hey, hey, hey! And he's like, what? And I'm like, United, we told you United. He pulls over, like, slams on the brakes. Everyone's like almost comes off their seats. He pulls over at the last second. Of course, they were going to miss our drop. Unbelievable. So from the drop-off, we run inside to the ticket counter, in which they say, we can't give you seats. You have to get them at the kiosk when you get to your gate. Again, nothing easy whatsoever. So from the check-in, from where we're at, to the gate, I don't know how this happened, but in that short of a time period, I get sick as hell again. Massive headache, sweating like crazy, feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm like, oh God, what is going on? We get to the ticket counter, and they have Thomas's ticket on through. He's like, good, thank God. I'm like, awesome, Thomas is going to get home. That's totally cool. When it comes to me, Mary Beth, and Gracie, nope. Like, basically, it's an oversold flight, and because we got some cheap ticket or whatever, they say, you'll probably be good, but we don't have your seats yet. So here I am, sick as can be again, which I'm sure has to be anxiety and stress induced, and we don't have tickets yet. So I am just like, man, I can't win. Like, no one would ever believe this. This is the payback for messing with Dannybrook over and over and over again. And suddenly I understood. I understood Glenn. I understood Sue. I understood the absolute stress that they live under, because this thing, whatever's there, and I truly believe this, guys, whatever is at Dannybrook has an overwhelming ability to spiritually influence people into just making the worst decisions, but also experiencing the darkest side of life. This is the payback. So we're sitting around and we're waiting to get our tickets, and finally they call my name up to the ticket counter. I go up and they tell me, we don't have tickets for you. You, Mary Beth, Gracie, we don't have tickets for. My heart just drops. I just want out of Philly. I just want to go home. I've never experienced a weekend this dark with so much, oh my God, with so much stress and anxiety and negativity. I just want to go home. At the last second, they say, you know what? If you run right now and go to this other gate, I might be able to squeeze you on a direct flight to Los Angeles. And I am like, let's do it. We are hustling as fast as we possibly can. As fast as we possibly can. As I'm running to this counter, I throw up. I'm like, oh my God. It was horrific. Thank God we get there, and I am talking, they are shutting the gates. I begged them. I'm like, please, please. Thankfully, they got us on. We flew home. And that entire time, all I could think about is that every bit of this was my fault. I knew from the very, very beginning, when I was, thinking that Seth was a serial killer, when I was coming to these bizarre conclusions that I would never come to, when an overwhelming amount of paranormal activity was consistently happening, when I could see my friend Glenn and Sue, when I could see, their daughters, when I could see like this thing affecting them as a family, as people, in this negative way, when it was affecting me in a negative way every time I would go there. When I'm watching this poor guy scream and freak out and face plant me because he thinks something is flying at him going, whoa, all of this is nothing but negativity. This is nothing but negativity. When married couples that love each other are going on vacation to come to this place to break out in these horrific, highly personal arguments in front of everybody. There was a darkness to Dannybrook that was powerful. And it had an overwhelming influence. So back to the original letter that I got, when I was asked if I believe in spirit influence, yes. But it's not because of one thing. That's the hard part about this. When people, often ask me questions about things like, well, do you believe in this? Do you believe in this? Oh yeah, well, what made you believe in it? It's not one thing. It's years and years of experience. It's things like Dannybrook, where I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Spirit influence is real. Now, do you want to say a spirit is like a person, or are we just talking about an intelligent manifestation of evil? Which I like to refer to it as that, because you may or may not believe in God or the devil. But I think most people believe that there's such thing as good and evil. Well, if you believe in both of those things, then I don't think it's a stretch to believe that both of those things have influence. And the difference between me today versus me back then is I don't have to stick my hand deep in the fire and get the worst blister imaginable to know that I need to just back off. Because the goal is fun. The goal is fun. It's exploration. It's having a good time, laughing. It's making memories. Experiencing something that blows your mind, where you feel like you're closer to the other side than you ever have been before in your life. That's what our events are about. And I love them. And we have the best events in the world. Those of you coming to the Jefferson Hotel, you're going to see that. You're going to see that. And with that, my friends, I thank you all for listening to part 2 of episode 126 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.